All right, here we go. Overdrive, off and running. TSN 1050 on the TSN app, your home smart speaker, and up on TSN 4. Bryan Hayes, the O-Dog, Jeff O'Neill. There's Jonas Siegel of The Athletic.
My man.
What a day we're about to have this afternoon.
We have a lot to talk about.
What would be your number one item? Let's say they call you from New York, the New York Times, and The Athletic home office calls up Jonas Siegel and says, man, there's a lot going on up there in Toronto. You pick the one thing you're going to write about. What would be that one thing?
Come on.
Is it the jaunt over to Germany by Auston Matthews?
It would have to be. Although I find the Embiid stuff pretty interesting.
Oh, you'd start writing about Joel Embiid?
Yeah.
How do you think The Athletic would respond to that?
I think they'd love it.
The Leafs report, I got to take on Joel Embiid being called out by his teammates after the game.
Dude,
I find that compelling, too.
Yeah, he's turning into the biggest loser in sports. Like, you just lose respect for the guy. Just say you want to go home or play somewhere else. Don't pull this garbage. It's nonsense.
It's kind of weird, like the reporting now that he's unhappy with the way he's being used. You don't play.
Don't fall into the trap. Don't fall into We're not leading with Joel Embiid. We're not leading with Joel Embiid.
That's why you're a professional. Don't try to get us off track, Jonas, and talk about Philly sports.
Okay.
Let's talk about the Leafs and Toronto sports.
There's nothing going on. What do you mean?
What a development
Nothing
today.
alarming.
I mean, there's a lot that came out of
good.
it because on top of this, like David Camp is like looking around saying, when are you going to talk about, why don't you write about David Camp going on the IR today? But they're thin up the middle of the ice.
They were thin before.
Before. And David Camp has a mysterious injury, which we don't know what it is.
Yep.
But something's happened to the point where he's placed on IR, so he has to be out for at least a week.
I like that you have said David Camp's name before Auston Matthews.
Well, Matthews has not been playing, and Matthews is not going to play this week, and I guess we're burying the lead, although we're just starting the show. Yeah. News came out today that he is currently in Munich, Germany.
Oktoberfest.
He's at Oktoberfest.
Hammering beers and sausages with Dr. Foreman.
Right, with Dr. Foreman, because the Leaf physician had to go over there with him to make sure that everything's on the up and up. But no setbacks. Nothing's going on here. He just, he hopped on a flight to Germany to go check out what's going on over there with doctors, which means one of two things happened here. It was day-to-day, and there was a setback, and now they're realizing we got to figure out what's going on with this guy, and you've got to go to Germany because there was a doctor that you've used on whatever the problem is that obviously helped you in the past, so get over there. It sounds a lot like Christian McCaffrey. A lot of people are pointing that out. McCaffrey was different. We knew what the injury was. It was an Achilles injury because in the NFL, they tell you stuff like that.
They are mandated.
They are mandated to do that. In the NHL, they can just call it a thing, and they don't tell you what actually is happening.
Fix his thing. He's going to fix his thing
He's going to fix his thing over there. We'll play the tree living audio here in a moment. But a lot like Christian McCaffrey, where you got to go overseas and visit a specialized doctor to try to get to the bottom of what's going on or help you get out from underneath it.
Let me ask you guys this, Hayes.
Yes.
Let me ask you this. Are you guys really, and I know we discussed it a little bit yesterday, are you frustrated by the details of the day-to-day kind of update on this? Or are you just thinking, like, this is the way I'm thinking. If he comes back at the end of the month and he's healthy, that's all I would really care about. Like, do you care about this flight to Germany or the details or not knowing, or it's up in the air and he's going to play but then he's not and then he's not on the ice? Like, do you get caught up in that? Because I seem to not. I'm just like, I just need this guy to get back at the end of the month healthy. That's kind of my long-term
Wait, can I
thing.
just ask you, why are you not caught up in it? Like, why is it not a thing for you?
I guess it's just when I find out a guy's not playing and he's not healthy, also known as injured, I kind of put it past me, and I'm like, they're going to play without that guy.
Yeah.
So I guess it hasn't been on. Obviously, you're wondering. He's such a quality player and a big name in the game and in the city, but I just don't seem to get caught up into the day-to-day. I don't know if because that's why I walked around locker rooms my whole life, and I've been like, hey, how you feeling? Nah, not that. And I'm just like, okay, that guy comes back when he comes back. So maybe my thinking about it might be different. I'm not trying to big league you guys by saying that, Let's be honest.
Okay.
But
A little bit.
I
Sure.
just don't get caught up in the day-to-day. I'm like,
So-
maybe this guy comes back as long as he's healthy. That's my concern.
Yeah, of course.
I get concerned and I'll get frustrated if it's like, this guy's having surgery and he's done for
But
the
see,
year.
that's my thing, is that I said, and I said it yesterday on our show, I was on with Jay last night, I don't blame the Leafs or any team for operating the way that they operate. They are under no mandate to say a thing.
No, they're doing what they can do.
They're doing
like,
whatever
they're allowed to do what
exactly.
they're doing.
They don't have to say anything. They don't have to tell anything. It's in the CBA, and the owners and the commissioner do not force any type of update. My thing is that now it's 3 weeks, the most popular player on the team, the captain of the team, the highest paid player in the game, a captivating superstar, has been day-to-day for weeks now. And what I'm saying is I don't take anything the Leafs say at face value, because they are trying to control everything, and they're allowed to do that, and they're entitled to do it. For whatever reason, that's the way they're going to operate. It's a thing. We're not telling you. It's day to day. And my thing is, Owen, where I go, okay, my spidey sense is going off, is what you just said, is that now this guy's in Germany. What's next? Like, what is next with this guy?
Yeah.
That as of now, they keep perpetuating the statements and the thought, no setbacks, we're not worried. I don't know if I can fully believe that.
Well,
If
and
the
I
guy's
get-
in
I understand
Germany,
that
the guy's
because-
in Germany. He's not in Munich, Colorado. He's in Germany right now, and he's the best player on the team, and it's a big season for the group.
Dude, you
And-
never
and
know. He
that's-
might have said, guys, I'm not playing. I want some wieners and schnitzels, and
maybe
I want
he
some
did.
pints.
And listen, you're not wrong, if this guy's back in a week or two, it's completely irrelevant,
Yeah.
and they've been great without
The
him.
one element
but what
of
if
it
he's
is-
not? At what point
it's-
do you say, what's been going on here?
The one element is it went from, we probably thought he was all going to take the ice on Saturday against the Oilers and McDavid, and then all of a sudden he's in Germany with the schnitzels and wieners. It's like
That's a
quite
pretty
tran-
substantial turn, man.
It
That's what I'm
is.
saying. And that's what makes this feel different to me, Jonas.
Yeah.
Is if it's, hey, something's nagging, he's right there, but this guy hasn't skated in a week, and now he's in a different country seeking treatment. That's substantial for a superstar like Matthews, and it's a Matthews story because of who he is.
Yes.
The guy is the most popular athlete in the city, and as
Well,
a result, anything that happens with him is going to draw attention.
And the reason I think you should care, Jeff, is I know you care, but it's clearly not getting better, right? Otherwise, he wouldn't be going to Germany. He would be skating. Like in the last few days, the more time has gone on and he's not skating, I'm thinking to myself, like, that's starting to be a little concerning that he's not skating. Now, their schedule has made it so he's not really missing that many games, but it's not getting better.
Well-
Why is it not getting better? Like they keep however, like semantics, right? Is it a setback? I don't know.
Right.
What is a
it doesn't
setback?
ultimately matter.
Clearly, he is not better to the point where he can skate, to the point that he can practice, to the point that he can play. Why
Right.
is that?
And that also crushes the theory that if they were losing without him, he'd be playing. No, he wouldn't.
No, he wouldn't.
He would not be playing. If it was Game 7 tonight, this guy's not playing. I don't believe he's playing. Like I think if you're going to lengths where you're like, I got to take a team doctor to Germany with me.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I'm not in a position to say, hey, maybe we'll see him on Saturday.
No.
I'm not sure you can believe that because it's been day to day for weeks.
And that's
now.
the other thing. Like you point out, they can do what they want, but by being so mysterious, the vacuum is going to get filled regardless. Like you want to make it a mystery. That's cool. People will just speculate.
Well, and
you kind of make it more of a thing when you don't say anything.
When does your radar go off then? Like if your attitude is whatever, he's not around, so they keep playing, which is valid. They play tomorrow night with or without Auston Matthews. Vegas is here, and they play them tomorrow. And
My
then they play
radar would
Saturday.
go off if I think I saw a report today where it was like he's hoping for next week, and if not, they've got a road trip to Florida at the end of the month targeted.
Yes.
And I would say if he's not playing by then, it's probably looking
But-
like there's going to be something significant here, and I don't know what that means, but possibly significant time. I don't know.
They probably
I don't know
have-
the situation. That's what's so goofy about this. When you're not transparent, people don't know. All we do is go on shows like this and we speculate because what else are we left to do?
And in large part because of the player we're talking about. With all due
course.
respect to other players on this team and around the league, if you're a depth player, you're not
David
getting
Camp's name won't be mentioned the rest of this show and the rest of this
We'll see
month.
With all
for
due
that.
respect, it
Yes,
probably
it's just-
won't.
it's just
It
what we
probably
do.
won't. But Matthews is a different beast because of who he is. And that's also why I think the Leafs are overly cautious with him in particular, like they were in the playoffs, where he missed two
Same
playoff games and there was no answer
Same
on
thing
anything.
with Nylander.
Yeah.
Well, and they probably don't know when he's going to play again. Like, how could they if he's not skating?
Well, that's
He's
the
in
other
Germany.
thing.
Like,
If
they
they
probably
don't
have
know,
no idea.
what the hell are they going to say?
Well, and that's the whole thing.
Just
That's why
say.
you're getting answers why it might
Just
be
say.
next week, and then it might be the road trip in Florida,
Well,
because they don't know either.
Let's hear Brad Treliving, okay? The GM spoke today, and this is always a development when the GM has to come out and speak. Basically, what happened is they got word that people know this guy's in Germany.
This was not a plan.
This was part of me thinks if they felt they could get him in and out without anyone knowing, they would not have said anything about him going to Germany. But I think it became clear that someone was going to know it or someone was about to report it, and they came out. And here's what Treliving said on Matthews today.
And we haven't been trying to be cryptic with all this stuff. We've been calling him day to day because that's what he's been. He has, we've looked at the schedule here, and what we're trying to do is use this week to hopefully get this thing behind him. As part of that, he and our doc foreman went over to Germany to see a doc that he's used in the past. More as a general checkup, but also to get some work done on his thing. It's not alarming. It was something we've been discussing, knowing that he's going to be getting this week. But we're hopeful that once we get through the week here, he'll be back up and skating, and his return to play would be after that. So again, nothing new. There's been no setbacks. Everything's been actually going quite well. We're just trying to use the days that we've got here with less games being played to just try to get this behind us.
All right. So there you go. And anyway, he's not going to play this week. Who knows when we'll hear from Matthews? I mean, policy is if you're injured, you're not generally speaking with the media. Which, again, he's the captain. Like, I don't know if rules change with the captain.
Those are team rules.
You're never going to hear anything
rule.
anyway.
Team
You know what he's
rules.
going to say? I'm not going to get into it. So
Yeah, of course. He's not going to say anything.
Don't hold your breath on getting any clear information of what happened in Germany or
No.
anything like that.
He's not going to give you any information.
I
He's
guess
going to say, I'm not getting into it.
Yeah.
Well,
Which, again, he's entitled to that. He doesn't have to say anything.
No.
No one has to do anything here because the league allows for that
Yes.
lack of transparency.
I think the most important thing for you, Jeff, and everyone else is like, is this something that they can get behind him, or is this going to be a thing the whole year? And I think that's what we don't know. Like, we know that this was an issue in training camp. He played through it. I'm guessing, like, he's the captain. Like, he probably thought, you know what, I gotta be in there.
Mm-hmm.
But that obviously didn't work, and now they're pulling it back. And it's like, how long will that be? Will it be an issue all season?
Well, that's what happens with injuries like this. It
Right.
might be, and once again, this is speculation because we don't know anything. Can we have something done here where you can get through the next month or get through the regular season? Because everybody knows what another option would be. Surgery done for the year. I don't know, but that's why you're looking into things like we got to get over the hump here, and if we can't, then you got serious problems if you
Right.
can't get over the hump.
And
Then you're
let's-
talking about missing big time, like a lot of time.
Yeah. And let's hope that's not the case. And as of now, that's not the case. I mean, I don't think the Leafs would, like, if they knew behind closed doors, like, there's a real chance this guy's out for a long time, they would keep operating the way they're operating. I don't believe
know.
that. I think they're mum on details because that's the way they operate. Every team in the league operates. I think they're overly sensitive because of the player we're talking about here. But
it's just counterproductive.
that, ultimately, it is. But I'd like to believe that if they were truly freaking out that this guy's on the verge of missing serious time, that it would be out in some capacity. And they wouldn't continue to perpetuate, oh, he's just around the corner. It's day to day. It's going quite well. He's going to skate and then he'll resume play. And obviously, if you're a Leaf fan, you're hoping that that is the case. But, you know, he's not playing tomorrow. He's not going to play on the weekend.
Nope.
And they're 5-1 without him, but that's not going to continue forever.
No.
Like, at some point, they're going to miss him. And again, David Camp, ding, ding. We need like a bell. I'm going to mention Camp 45,000 times today. Him going on the IR means Max Domi's staying up the middle of the ice. John Tavares is staying up the middle of the ice, clearly. Pontus Holmberg is staying up the middle of the ice. And now Fraser Minten's coming up. And Minten had a really good camp.
No, he was hurt.
Yeah.
No, what was I going to say?
Oh, the year
rookie
before.
camp. Yeah, the year before he was great. And in rookie camp, he was like their best player. You're right. He got hurt at
God,
the end of the rookie
I'm so glad
camp.
you meant the year before and you weren't just BSing and it was like he got caught in
No.
BS.
He was great last year. He had a great rookie camp. What I was told coming out of that was the coaches that ran it said he was by far the best player in their camp. Like that he is ready to play, and then he got hurt, and then he wasn't available to them. But the plan was always for him to go to the Marlies.
Yeah,
he was always
going
to go down there. Even if he was healthy in camp, he was going to the Marlies. Yeah. But now he's up. He's coming off this high ankle sprain. But by all accounts, since he's returned to play, he's performed very well.
Dude, it's a good opportunity.
But
man.
it's a big
Never
opportunity
know.
for Fraser Minten. A big opportunity because, like, David Kampf is not a lock to be here long term, healthy or otherwise.
He's under contract.
He is for another couple of years. Doesn't mean you can't get out from underneath that if you don't love it. Pontus Holmberg doesn't have a stranglehold on the third-line center role. And Max Domi, I don't believe, plays center throughout his career here in Toronto either. So there is opportunity here for Fraser Minten to step up, and that is, I think, the positive in this. You're going to get to see a young player with high hopes that I think they feel has a future with the team. It's going to be quicker than they planned, but that's the way it works in pro sports. And I'm sure you could speak to it, Like, if you're a young guy, you never know when that opportunity's coming. But when it does, you better take advantage.
Yeah, and not just to say, oh, I'm up there to fill in. You got to have the mindset of, I want to go up there, and I want Craig Berube to say, I'm never sending this guy down. He's too good. He's playing too good.
Exactly.
Like, I want him – like, it's kind of cutthroat, but the idea is – you want him playing so good where he'll move Max Domi over to the wing and he's higher in the lineup and Pontus Holmberg's not a thought at centerman. He's like a fourth line. You just want to play good and do your thing to show that you're an NHL player. The thing that I guess the polar opposite of that is what Nick Robertson is showing right now. He's kind of showing that he can't play or not have success and not produce at the NHL level. So you want to get up and show you can play and produce and be a good player. The ultimate goal is you want to resemble what you were in junior. That's why teams drafted you. Point producer, big body, big in the corners, big plays, game breaker, make plays. It's like you hear all the football coaches all the time before pregame speech. They're like, go out there and make plays. Like, that's what you're supposed to do. So many guys just drift up and down the ice, and at the end of the day, if you want to go through their clips, they do zero.
I just don't know if that's who he is, though, in the NHL, right?
Okay, well, what is he, Jonas?
I think they think, they hope ceiling, he's a third line center, but more likely
to be the best third line center.
Yeah, like if he's really good defensively, like that's part of why he made the team at a camp last year. Is like Sheldon Keefe trusted him. He was smart.
How many points did he get in junior?
Yeah, but they're not
more than a point a game.
He's not going to be a big point.
Well, you never know, though, Jonas. I mean, Matthew Nyes was not a guy that
Jonas,
was like
my only point is I don't
destroying-
think they drafted him saying, God, we pray that this guy can one day be a third-line center.
Yeah, Freddie the Goat was kind of that.
Okay,
but
that's what they're thinking.
I remember having a conversation with one of my teammates because I wasn't really producing, and I said to him, his player's name was Jeff Brown, really good defenseman, played for a long time. I said, Brownie, what if I just become like a third-line steady centerman? And he looked at me and he said, who the hell wants to become that? Why would you ever want to become that? You want to be a player and a game breaker and a go-to guy.
Right.
And I was like, that was a good thing to say.
You're different.
But listen, you can have projections. It doesn't mean that he shouldn't be thinking, I want to blow through those.
No, I think he's thinking, like, if I can develop my offensive game, maybe I can become a second-line center.
Exactly.
That's great. But I think, like, expectations need to be pretty tempered.
Well, that's reasonable.
Why not just get in the lineup and be a good damn player? How about that? Like, just go, I want to be good.
Right.
I want to be good.
Yeah,
I don't know where it is. I'm not going to put a name on the leaderboard or a 1A or 2 or 3. How about just be damn good and see where it takes you? Let's start with there. Can we all
that would
agree
go
on
a long way. That would go a long way. And like the other truth that they're dealing with, the reality that they're dealing with, is Ryan Reeves is an everyday player who's suspended for 5 games. So Reeves is out, Camp is out, Pacioretty's out, Matthews is out,
Yarncroc is out,
and Yarncroc's out, who has not played all year but was going to be an everyday guy, and.
They're very thin.
They're thin. And also, like you mentioned, Robertson's a guy who I think if everyone's healthy, he's not playing. Like, I don't think Berube's dying to play him right now. He's taking him out of the lineup. Connor Dewar's trying to find his way back into the lineup. These are depth players, but everything's going to be affected. And again, up the middle of the ice, they went to Willie. They were like, we want to try at center ice.
We're going to give it time. We're going to let this breathe.
It didn't happen. Willie is capable of playing up the middle of the ice. He has taken some draws this year. I think he and Domi at times when they've been playing together have kind of found some sort of a hybrid. But Mitch Marner's name came up today. and the idea of maybe him helping out up the middle of the ice. And I believe it was Craig Berube was speaking on this earlier today. Here's what Berube had to say about the idea of Marner playing up the middle of the ice.
How seriously, if at all, have you thought about trying Mitch Marner as center?
I talked to Mitch the other day about it, actually. He said, no problem, whatever you want. He's smart enough for sure. Yeah, like I know he's played some D here, too, in the past, so I think he can play all positions. But, no, it's definitely an option if we need it. You know, I think he's a guy that can go in there and, you know, understand the positioning and what to do. You know, I guess, you know, you have to worry about face-offs a little bit and things like that. But he's definitely a guy that we can use there for sure.
All right. I'm not sure I'm buying that.
He has literally never played center in the NHL.
Yeah.
It's not happening. It's not happening. It's not a good idea.
Kyle Dubas one summer if that was an option. He's like, he's been the best right winger in the league for 2 years in a row. We're not doing that. And I was like, okay.
Yeah. And I think Craig's just being nice and answering the question. And, you know, he's in a pretty jovial mood there. Yeah. And I don't dispute that Mitch probably said whatever you need. Sure. Like play me wherever you want to play me. But he's better suited on the wing. He's comfortable on the wing. He's playing great on the wing. It's the same thing with Willie. Like Nylander and Marner are wingers, and they're dominant wingers, and they're performing very well for you. And yes, you're thinner up the middle of the ice, but don't, you know, cut off your nose to spite your face.
We don't agree with that, but yeah, I don't agree.
You think you should be playing these guys?
I think
up
they
the middle
should.
of the ice.
I mean, I've been clear. Like, I think they should have given the Willie thing at.
But if he can't play, Jonas, he can't play.
Sorry, but you can't give it a week at camp and then say, yeah, it's not going to work.
What did you see out of a week though that
I don't know.
Believe that Willie is comfortable playing?
Why not give it 10 games?
Well, what about Marner though? You just mentioned he's never played center in the NHL.
The season's going. The season's happening.
So you think Marner should play it up?
I think they should have taken the whole preseason. Let Nylander
for just Nylander or Marner though.
Nylander.
What about Marner? Are you?
We're in the middle of the season now. Like,
so you don't think that's
at least with Nylander? You could say like in the past he has actually played center, like more games than you think.
Marner would have as a kid, and
Marner
probably
was drafted as a
junior.
center. So was Nylander.
Yeah, I mean in
to be
London it was more Dvorak up the middle of the ice on that line. It's true though.
But the point is, like, we are in November 19. Like, you're going to move him.
I don't think it's going to happen. But you just said you disagree that he should play.
I disagree that anyway, we don't need to delve into the Nylander itself.
Why not? It's a topic of discussion. They're thin up the middle of the ice.
I think, and now is a perfect example of why they have one major injury at center and they are like scrambling.
Yeah.
Like,
well, that's why Fraser Minten's coming up earlier than they wanted.
Which is why if you had given this 10 games. At least you would have 10 games and be like, does this work? Does this, like, has there solutions?
Jonas, I'm not the smartest guy, but I think after 10 games, he would have realized that it's just his best fit in the NHL.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Then know it.
So you just pissed away 10 games as an experiment. That's my point. So you don't need to do it. He's not a centerman in the NHL.
Has what they've been using been working so well? Like, granted, they've won games, but it's not like they had a great solutions. Yeah, but it's not like their solutions have been great.
Well, Jonas, it's a salary cap. They got one guy that makes 13, the other guy that makes 11. Who the hell else are they supposed to have?
That's the truth.
Like,
sorry, don't agree.
But it is valid though, Jonas. Like,
okay, well, who are they supposed to have?
$45 million.
Who are they supposed to have sitting around?
Well, they had Nylander.
But he's a winger. He's been in the league for 8 years, Jonas.
Who's on first?
Okay, but Aaron Rodgers should play left tackle this week.
They went into training camp saying you are going to play center, and then after a week, imagine
they said.
They tried you on TV. They gave you 2 appearances, and they're like, "Nah, this guy sucks." You'd be like, "Well, you gave me 2 chances."
But here's what I'm saying though: if I was in that chair for 8 years, and you're like, "He's really good in that chair for 8 years," that's different. It's not like we're saying you're either in the National League or you're in the American League. Like the guy's he's a superstar winger.
I know, but you needed a center. They need centers, and now they're going to have to try to trade for a center. There's not a lot of centers out there.
There are some people that think he does suck on TV as opposed to radio.
That is valid.
I'll leave that for another day.
That probably is true. Some of the comments can be very harsh.
The point is, like, you need time. Like, you guys... Anyway, whatever.
Yeah, Jonas, I understand your argument. I get what
and
you're
now
saying.
is just like a perfect example of why it would have been a good option for them to have. Like, so you take those 10 games, and let's say he's terrible. And you're like, okay, this doesn't work. But at least in a pinch right now...
But it doesn't help you in this pinch. Because you have the answer that he can't do it.
Better than using 20-year-old Fraser Minten.
But if you give him the 10 games and you conclude he can't play the middle of the ice, then it's a moot point when you run into the situation you run in right now.
True, but what if
he's not going to play?
But what if those 10 games go great and suddenly you're like, oh man, we got something here.
Then he would have kept playing up the middle of the ice, clearly.
And then maybe then you don't have to trade for.
But you're presuming that that would have been the outcome.
I don't know the outcome.
I think the Leafs knew the outcome.
How?
Because they've been watching the guy play his whole life.
Then why decide in the summer that you're going to move him over?
Because it was a silly practice practice that never should have happened. It was a complete
End of
waste of
story.
time.
It was a silly practice that never should
He's
have
a
happened.
winger.
I do not believe
And you can move him off the wing into the center. Then who the hell's on right wing? Nick Robertson? You going to dish sauces over there?
That's part of the problem. Like, they're thin.
Well, but they're also thin because of injuries. They're not thin because of planning. Like, Matthews is hurt, Camp is hurt, Pacioretty's hurt, Yarncroke's hurt, and now Reeves is suspended. That's
And
five
they're thin
players.
for one other reason that I just mentioned.
The
One guy
salary
makes
cap is
$13
what it
million.
is.
One guy makes 11. The other guy makes 11.7. The other guy makes 11.
Are you not allowed to trade any players?
Yes, but what team has 17, 18 forwards worth of depth? Who has that?
Did they get better at forward in the summer?
I would
How did we
argue
get into this?
Possibly.
They got worse. They lost Tyler Bertuzzi, didn't replace him. That was it. They didn't get.
I think
Steven
they would
Lawrence.
argue that Pacioretty and internal improvements of Nyes and McMahon for a full
Pacioretty
year.
was a wild card, right?
Sure.
Like, if he gave you anything, you're happy, and he was playing pretty well before he got hurt.
But Nyes
like,
going into his
injuries-
second full year, McMahon actually having a full year.
But they didn't add at center, or they didn't add at forward.
Who else did they have other than
Tyler
Bertuzzi?
Bertuzzi's ass for 6 months last year, and now all
Other
of a
than
sudden we're
Bertuzzi,
talking
who did they
about a
lose?
Big replacement.
That's it. They lost Bertuzzi and didn't add anyone.
They
You
did
can
add
replace
people.
him. They added fourth liners.
They added
I'm not
Pacioretty.
trying. I don't know why you.
And they added Tanev and Ekman Larson. Would
Yeah,
you not
they
argue that was
chose-
and Anthony Stolarz?
They chose to divert. The
Would you say that's
resources
a better plan?
Yeah,
That's why they're going to get through this storm, because they're actually very good at defense and in net right now.
Well, okay, we'll see. All right.
He just put you in a full Nelson and body slammed your neck right off the.
I don't think they can continue to play
floor.
it the way that they've been playing and expect this to continue. Obviously, you lose your best player, and eventually it's going to catch up.
That's the thing that you
not
can't
score.
hold that against the Leafs, that Matthews is in Munich right now.
But injuries happen.
I understand that
You're
they
like,
happen.
You're
but,
like saying well, how could they have foreseen injuries
Listen.
happening? It's like that's what the job
but
is.
no one can replace. Like Edmonton can't replace McDavid.
No, of
you
course
can have a
not. Well, I
body.
mean, they have Draisaitl is pretty good. Like,
Okay,
stepping
I know, and Tavares he's not Draisaitl, but he's
course.
there to obviously step up, and so is Max. But I understand what you're saying. Ideally, you have the depth and you have some foresight in that, but there's a finite number in terms of the cap.
Mm-hmm.
They allocated money, in my opinion, appropriately by adding to the defense, which they had to do. And there's also a limit where at some point you have to say, okay, we're going to be thin here. Like, it's just a fact.
Yeah.
Like
I
you
think they
take
do that.
McDavid, Nugent Hopkins, Connor Brown, Adam Henry. You take 4 or 5 guys out, Corey Perry. You're like, all right, well, this is going to be an issue. We're calling guys up from Bakersfield, or we're calling up guys from Toronto, or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's just the reality that they're in right now.
Sure.
It's not.
It is for sure.
All
You
right.
can't anticipate Calle Yarncroc getting a groin injury. at
Exactly.
camp.
And
Like that.
Matthews and all right, we have some breaking news in the league right now. There is so much going on in the National
Dude, it's
Hockey League
crazy,
today.
Man. It's crazy.
But
the
Jim
Friday's going to be a bonanza.
Jim Montgomery has been fired
That is crazy.
in
man.
Boston.
is
Joe
crazy.
Sacco will take over on an interim basis. So, listen, the Bruins got pumped by Columbus at home last night. They got booed off the ice. They're 8-9-3, I believe. They're not playing well. They look like an old, slow team. But Jim Montgomery, in my opinion, is a really good coach. Last year, I thought he did a phenomenal job. 2 years ago, he won the Jack Adams, and they won 64 games or whatever it was. This, to me, is
that's
a management
crazy.
issue, not a coaching issue.
Yeah, we got into it, and Noodles kind of disagreed with me where I didn't like the team offensively. They have no offensive punch. It's Pasternak or Marchand scoring, and that's it. And they've got nothing else. In their goaltending situation, he missed camp, and he hasn't gotten it together. And all of a sudden, it's Monty's fault?
Right.
Dude, and they wanted Cassidy out a couple years ago, and he went to Vegas and won a Stanley Cup. And now they get this guy out. What the hell's going to happen? Like, what do you need there? They need different players there. They need to mix it up. But again, what the hell are they going to do? Make a trade? Who are they going to trade?
This is the thing. Like, Frank Saravelli just tweeted out, in 184 games, the Bruins lost just 41 times in regulation under Jim Montgomery. They're 120, 41, and 23. He has a 715 point percentage as their coach.
Yeah.
That'd be pretty high up there.
And he's out. And
Well, who the hell are you going to get better than Jim Montgomery? That would be one of the things I would think about if you're going to fire the coach. We really got to bring in somebody in a heater position, like a go-to coach.
Joe Sacco.
Who the hell is that?
But Jeff, what else are they supposed to do? What do they do?
Well, I mean, you could give it some more time. They're still technically in a playoff spot. Well, this is a team that's been very effective for quite some time.
Sure.
Like, this is panicking in Boston. This is an offseason that went awry where they spent a lot of stupid money. Like Lindholm hasn't been great so far. Zadorov hasn't really fit in that well. And the Swayman, which I think both parties have to take blame on this, but Swayman's numbers are really, really bad. I mean, he's struggling right now. He's not playing well. They made the Allmark deal because they realized we got to commit to one guy, and you know what is hitting the fan in Boston. And this feels to me like this organization doesn't know how to handle it because they haven't had to handle it in so long. They've been so good consistently every single year.
They need a massive, like old school, massive hockey trade, Hayes, where they need some offensive punch. Like guys like Geeky and Zaka and Coyle, they're just not producing, man. They're not producing. Like they're not. There's no flair. There's no nothing. There's no jump. There's no offense.
No, there isn't. And like Marchand looks old, and Pasternak's not off to a great start. He got benched.
Yeah.
And again, those guys tried to play it off like, hey, it's all good. But was it all good? I don't know. You mentioned it. The reports were out that they reportedly players were basically campaigning to get rid of Cassidy. Look how that
Pasternak's
played
a
out.
60-goal scorer. Who the hell's passing him the puck right now? Tell me.
He's not even
Yeah, I
playing
mean,
with Lindholm.
it's supposed to be.
Elias Lindholm
Coyle,
looks like a fourth-line right winger out there. That's what he looks
Lindholm is struggling.
But
it's not good.
The only thing I would say is like this was in the air in the playoffs. Remember, like it was.
Yeah.
It's going to be
when they were going to blow that lead to the Leafs,
and then they didn't. They went to the second round, lost, didn't fire him, and it always reminds me like if that doesn't happen and you wait, it usually ends up backfiring. Like even here, right, with Babcock, with Keefe.
Look at Mike McCarthy in Dallas.
Mike
it was
McCarthy,
like, you got to fire him. Nah, bring him back.
And then it just usually backfires.
It generally does. All right. There's Ovechkin news today. There's news out of Vancouver today, news out of Boston, a lot of news out of Toronto. More on that as we continue. Confirm or deny coming up later this afternoon. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4. Overdrive continues. Brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. So more on the Leafs and what happened down at Skate today. We're getting Auston Matthews. He's gone to Germany with the team doctor. It's a doctor over there that he's worked with in the past. We don't know what the injury is, but he's hoping to get over it. And again, the Leafs are adamant as of now. Like, surgery's not a part of this. It's not a setback. We'll see what comes of it. We'll see when he plays. But the Leafs are playing tomorrow night. Like, they got games coming up, and they're 5-1 without him. I don't know when he's going to return. I think that's what comes out of it for me, is speculating when he's going to return is also really just a waste of time. Because who knows?
It's been awfully difficult, too, when you're getting reports of, he's eyeballing Saturday, and then Saturday comes, and then it's like he's not skating all next week, and it might be end of the month, and there's a road trip. And
exactly.
When you start
who knows
assuming
when he's going to play?
When he practices, and then he practices again, then you can be like...
Then you're like, okay, he's actually really close. Like practicing and taking contact and shooting pucks.
Yeah, like you said, like he hasn't skated.
No, he's not skating right now.
Twice since they announced the injury.
Right. So that's what's going on in Toronto. Jim Montgomery was just fired by the Boston Bruins. Again, he has I think it was a 714 point percentage as the head coach of the Bruins. And last night it was ugly. The Columbus Blue Jackets went in there and pumped the Bruins. They got booed off the ice. That is a market that doesn't handle losing very well.
No.
Collectively as a market.
Losing in the playoffs too, right?
Right. And exactly, expectations. Like that I actually in a way appreciate the way Boston operates because they, whether it's the Bruins, the Celtics, the Red Sox, or the Patriots, they will not accept it. You have to win. And if you don't win, you're going to go. If there's a problem, you're going to go. And it's a rabid market. It's a crazy market. And Montgomery's out. Alex Ovechkin scored 2 last night. 2 goals in Utah after scoring 3 the night before in Vegas. And then McBain, it was an accident. McBain ran into him, but he went down immediately, and you could tell he had a knee injury. And I guess he had an MRI, and they announced today he's week to week. And there'll be more on him after he gets back to Washington. But it's such a bummer for Ovechkin because this guy was literally scoring every single night and was leading the league in goal scoring. And we were having legit conversations like, okay, he passes Gretzky. Can he win the Rocket? This guy going to snipe 60 this year. And now if he's out week to week, and we're never going to get a clear answer on exactly what it means or how long he's going to be out, but let's take them at face value and say he misses 8 to 10 games. I think it changes everything in terms of what you can project Ovechkin is going to do this year.
I think you said at the beginning of the year, Hayes, one of our first shows, you're like, I think the only thing that can slow him down is his health.
Mm-hmm.
And now, who the hell knows what this is going to do to him? Because the last thing a 39-year-old guy needs is some kind of knee procedure, knee issue. And he's the same thing as Auston Matthews. Who the hell knows the severity of this and what it's going to take? But like you said, this guy's 39 years old and is on pace to score 60 this year.
Right.
Dude, I watched that first goal last night, and I was like, this guy's been on the ice for he stayed on the whole power play. And I'm like, look at this guy. He will not get off. And all of a sudden, the guy threw it out to the slot, and he rips it under the bar. Then again, in the third period, the guy just passes it over, and he absolutely drills it under the bar again. Goalie didn't see either shot. So what is a knee injury going to do to him? It's just, it's an awful thing to happen the way he's cooking right now.
It sucks because, as you just pointed out, like this guy's scoring vintage Ovechkin goals. These are not fluky, off his shin padding in, cleaning
ones
up
that
on
stopped
empty
last
nets.
year where we're like, where's the Ovi goals?
Yes.
They're back.
They're back. And we just showed the board up on TSN4. This guy's got 15 goals in his first 18 games. That is more goals through 18 games than at any point in his career. He's the greatest goal scorer of all time. He's going to pass Gretzky. It's just a matter of when. But this guy has more goals through 18 games than at any point in his career, and was jumping through the glass, jumping over the bench, was playing with such jubilation and exuberance and happiness. And they won last night. They won the night before in Vegas, and now he's out, and he's week to week. It's just it's a bummer. And like you said, if it's an upper body injury, you can skate, you can ride the bike, you can stay on the treadmill, you can work out. The concern is at 39, this guy has to get off his feet for a week or two.
Yeah.
How do you get the engine going again? That's always been the concern. Because this guy has also been remarkably durable.
Yeah.
Like Ovechkin has been a tank his whole career. That's why I wouldn't be shocked if we saw him in 3 or 4 days. The way this guy operates. Like, he's such a freak in nature in terms of the way he recovers, in terms of the way he fights through contact, that it's like a shock to the system to see him injured.
I'm just looking at his
He never
seasons.
misses games.
He's like barely missed any game.
He never misses anything.
Crazy.
And again, it speaks to how much he loves the game, because it would be so easy for him to say, I'm nicked up, I've done it all, I need some time. This guy is dying to play hockey every single night.
And it's a fabulous start for the Capitals, too.
Yes.
I thought they were going to be junk
So did
last
I.
year and this year. I thought, okay, you got your little playoffs as a bad team last year. Now you're going to be terrible. And they're one of the top teams in the league.
They're 3 points behind Winnipeg, and Winnipeg was 15-1 to start the year. Washington's 13-4-1. That's how good they've been.
Yeah.
And that's how good they continue to be. And you do wonder how this is going to hit their room, because Ovi has been so good for them. He's been a phenomenon early in the season.
Who do you guys think will win the Rocket? Because like I just look at it, I'm like, I don't really know. Like if I had to pick one, I'd pick Reinhardt. I think
one of those two are the leaders. I feel like Draisaitl's going to. Well, last night it didn't go well for Edmonton, man.
Let me ask you too this about the National Hockey League. Overwhelming every expert, probably including Hayes, picked the Edmonton Oilers to win the Stanley Cup. If there was a circle back, and you got to ask everyone again, how many would circle the Edmonton Oilers again right now?
I think there'd be at least 50% turnover. At least 50%. Because you're right, everybody on earth was picking Edmonton.
It was, I didn't do it, but everybody picked the Edmonton Oilers.
Who did you pick? I didn't pick them either. I
picked the Florida Panthers. I picked the Florida Panthers.
I picked the Dallas Stars. I was on record saying the Dallas Stars. You were on record saying Florida. Look at us. We're two originals.
Yeah.
We don't have to rescind anything.
But
let's say original thinkers.
Let's say 15 people had the Oilers. If you had 15,
7 would flip.
You think 7 would flip?
7 would flip. Of the other 8, 4 of the other 8 would be really thinking I'm on the fence, and the other 4 would just say, screw it, I'm going down with the ship because I've seen it before. Like they're having issues scoring. Defensively, they're putting up good numbers.
Yeah, but old Knobloch said the metrics aren't saying that.
It's interesting that the metrics are not breaking their way. But they're having like depth scoring issues. Yeah. Their power play has not been nearly what it was in the past.
It doesn't look the same, eh? Like Last year was like historic, and you'd
Yeah.
watch and you're like, oh my God.
I think they might have made an error, guys, in bringing all of the band back together. Like
But they didn't,
they had
did
to
they?
bring Henrique and
Oh, yeah.
Janmark.
Janmark and
Connor
Jan
Brown.
Mark
But then they
and
added
Connor Brown.
Arvidsson.
I know, but it
Jeff
just
Skinner.
seemed
Skinner's not found a role yet, man.
no.
he's-
It just doesn't. I don't know. It doesn't look good, but you know where they were last year and what they got to, so it's like it's difficult to be too critical because you can know they just flipped the switch.
But
it seems like McDavid or Draisaitl offensively, and that's all they got cooking right now.
yeah, and I think what was a concern that was talked about coming into the year is that they're the oldest team in the league, and they have a lot of guys who are like north of 30. Like they're relying on Evander Kane coming back and finding a role, and he's an important player.
Very important.
But I don't know when he's going to return and what's he going to look like when he does return. Like you're coming off pretty substantial surgery where you're expected to be out, 4 to 6 months. And they lost youth and they lost speed. You look at last year, guys who put up numbers. Warren Fogle can move. McLeod can move a bit. There were certain guys that, like Dylan Holloway was a guy that by the end of the year was moving.
Mm-hmm.
And Broberg didn't play a lot for them last year. But the concern was he's a young guy that they've cultivated that can maybe supply some offense, and he's done that to an extent in St. Louis. They could use some help on the defensive side of things. So, yeah, it's a good question, though. Like, how many people would rescind their pick or their vote?
Yeah,
for
like
the
can you
Oilers
look
to
at
win the
that
Cup?
decor, especially with Nurse out. Man, it's something right now.
Yes.
Like I don't know. They got a lot of work to do. I don't know if they have some magical trades at the deadline that they think they're going to pull off, but that roster as it's constructed right now, that's going to be difficult to make any kind of hay.
Yep, I agree with you there. Mike Johnson coming up in 20 minutes. I'm sure Johnny picked Edmonton to win the Cup.
Yeah, he did.
I'm pretty sure he did. We'll ask him that point blank. Are you going to rescind your pick live on our
They
show?
still have, where would you put them in the tier of Cup contender?
Are they in the top
They're
5
in the
for
top
you?
10. No, but they're in the top 10, aren't they?
I think they still should be
think they're in the
considered
top
that. Yeah, I think so because I still think they have the makeup of a good team. Like Hyman's just not had a good year. Nugent Hopkins, they have depth players who are capable of putting up more numbers, and they still have the big guys who are going to be rock stars for them. But it has not been a great start. And again, we're pretty deep into the season now where, like if the playoffs started tonight, Edmonton would be on the outside looking in.
Who do you think has a better chance of winning the Cup, the Leafs or the Oilers?
Oh, go
You
ahead.
had to do it. You had to do it.
I mean, you
Jonas.
guys were leading me there. How could I not bring it up?
Oh, your
You've
answer.
completely abandoned Edmonton. Which
Go
I
ahead.
think is a
You know what? I'm
overreaction.
going to say the Edmonton Oilers because I haven't seen Toronto get past the first round, and I have no sample size to say they're going to get to that, and it's going to be unstoppable. So I'm going to
that's
say the
right.
Edmonton Oilers. I'm not going to be a
Yeah,
moron.
I think that's reasonable.
Yeah.
Based on what their history.
But if you were ranking them, you'd probably rank maybe Edmonton 8th and the Leafs 10th or something.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're in the same grouping right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do.
There's only 10 good teams in the league, period. So
Right.
both of those two teams you just mentioned are one of them. The rest of the teams are junk.
So yeah, the Bruins are one of those teams that are junk right now, and they've made a coaching change. We'll come back and get into that. Mike Johnson coming up. Confirm or deny still to come later this afternoon as well. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app. All right, Mike Johnson will join us in about 15 minutes. Lots going on in the NHL. Lots going on in the NBA as well. You tried to get us on Joel Embiid out of the gate. A players-only meeting where Tyrese Maxey challenges him because he's late all the time. That's the reporting. He's late all the time to everything. And it's having a negative effect on the team.
Dude,
they got
just
pumped
ask for a
last
trade,
night.
man, and get out. Don't be Ben Simmons and be a loser. Like, you're too good of a player.
It is pretty remarkable what's happening in Philly. Like the Raptors won last night. They leaped ahead of the Sixers. The Raptors have 3 wins.
Dude, never alone in Philly, the whole league. Like, how are these TV companies, everyone talks about the TV deals in the NBA being so massive. How have they not gone to Adam Silver and said, excuse me, all this money and we're watching these guys not play, refuse to play back-to-backs?
It's crushing for the product. How many injuries to
but
big
what?
stars?
Well, that's true. But they're not holding them out. Only Philly is really doing this now. It's not really as big a thing as it used to be.
There's still enough
Kawhi
guys.
is hurt. Like, there are guys who are hurt, But Philly is like, I don't know what's going on. I watched a bit of that game last night. Like Embiid looks like he's like
so out of shape.
He looks terrible.
He looks
Just
really
doesn't
out
look
of
like
shape.
himself.
Yeah, he looks really out of shape.
Wait,
Makes
can I?
$60 million. What kind of exam? Like $60 million. You're out of shape. You don't want to. It's just
Don't show up on time. It's crushing, man. Like if your
junk look,
superstar
man.
players aren't doing what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
Like even last night, watching that Cowboy Texans game. Shout out to Millie Vanilli. Good pick last night.
Yeah. Hung.
CeeDee Lamb's body language last night was so bad. And yes, Cooper Rush is throwing you the ball. Yes, Mike McCarthy likely won't be your coach in the future. Yes, it's a disaster. But you got paid so much money to be a leader as well, to perform, to produce, to help win, but also show leadership skill. And when things are going wrong, you got to step up and put forth a face like everything's all good. And I couldn't believe the way CeeDee Lamb, like he had that one throw, he was coming across the middle, and Rush underthrew him. It was a bad throw. He still got his hands on it, but he threw his hands up and started rolling his eyes and shaking his head. I don't recall the last time I saw a guy do that. Like that explicitly showing up your team and your quarterback.
It's tough, though. Did you see Jamar Chase during the Sunday night game? When they got scored on again, he's just sitting on the bench. He's like, man.
Yeah, it doesn't help either. But they didn't pay Chase. He's probably sitting there saying, you pay me, maybe I'll act a little bit different. CeeDee Lamb is the I believe, second highest paid wide receiver in the game. And they paid him to put forth the front of leadership, and it was not on display last night. And the same thing with Embiid.
But you don't want him acting, right?
Well, you don't have to
You're saying
act
actually
if you're
just lead?
just be right in the middle.
Yeah.
I guess what I'm saying. Yes, you don't have to be over the top and pretend like things are great. I understand frustration coming out. But shaking your head, showing people up, the body language was pretty extreme last night.
It's pathetic.
Yeah, it's
That whole
over the
game
top.
was that first
That was an awful
quarter,
football
like
game.
that was bozo football, man. The fake punt, like that was.
They're so bad.
Oh my god!
Dallas is, they're so bad, and Jerry Jones is never going to get them out of it. No. And that's the sad realization if you're a Cowboy fan. You're not getting out from underneath this problem. All right, hour 2 coming up. Mike Johnson will join us on Auston Matthews, on Mitch Marner playing center, maybe Willie playing center, who knows. Jim Montgomery out in Boston. Overdrive continues, TSN 1050 and on TSN 4.